Welcome to the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast, a weekly podcast where we look at the history and development of video games. I'm your host, RxDude22, and welcome to Season 4 of the podcast, where we're going to explore games that I personally kind of like that might be a little more on the obscure side for most people. No countdown or anything associated with it, just random games that I personally enjoy. Starting out the season with a very lesser-known console, the Virtual Boy, and probably the greatest title that ever came about the short-lived Virtual Boy. This week we're going to look at Virtual Boy Warioland, platform game developed for the Virtual Boy by Nintendo for the Virtual Boy. It stars Wario, who finds himself deep underground after stumbling upon a treasure-filled cave and must find his way back to the surface. Throughout the journey, the player explores and searches for items and power-ups while fighting enemies and defeating bosses. Wario has the ability to jump between the background and foreground at certain points, making use of Virtual Boy's stereoscopic 3D effect. Virtual Boy Warioland was developed by a large portion of Nintendo R&D1 staff involved. It was co-directed by Hiroji Kataki and Hirofumi Matsuoka and produced by Gunpei Yoko. The music was composed by Kazumi Tataka, being his final project with R&D1. The game received generally favorable reception, particularly among retrospective commentators, receiving praise for its gameplay and utilization of 3D depth, but criticism focused on its short length. It is considered one of the best Virtual Boy games, and its background gimmick served as inspiration for multiple titles, including Donkey Kong Country Returns in 2010 and Mutant Mudds in 2012. Gameplay. Following the gameplay of Warioland, Super Mario Land 3, Virtual Boy Warioland is a side-scrolling platform game starring Wario. The premise follows Wario on vacation in the Awazon River Basin, relaxing at the Aldagabara waterfall. After being woken by a beaver, Wario notices strange creatures entering behind the waterfall and decides to follow them. Wario stumbles upon a cave full of treasure and attempts to claim it as his own. However, he collapses deep underground and must find his way back to the surface. The player controls Wario across 14 floors consisting of non-linear levels. The goal of each level is to collect treasures and find a key to unlock an elevator to the next floor. Wario can jump or run into enemies to knock them down. Stunned enemies can be picked up and thrown at other enemies or clouds that give coins. Wario can also perform a shoulder charge or body slam to attack enemies and break blocks. There are 3 power-ups Wario can equip, including a bull hat that increases his strength, an eagle hat that allows him to fly and attack in the air, and a fire-breathing dragon hat. Wario can combine the eagle and dragon hats into the King Dragon hat, granting him all 3 skills. Wario has the ability to leap between the background and foreground using jump pads. In most levels, the player needs to navigate between the 2 planes to explore and search for items, or avoid enemies and obstacles that move between the planes. If Wario takes damage, he will shrink, losing his power until he picks up a clove of garlic or a hat. If Wario is hit while small, he loses a life and all the coins he had collected in that level. Every 3 floors, Wario must fight bosses that make use of Virtual Boy's stereoscopic 3D effect. Between floors, there are mini games where Wario can gamble the loot he has collected so far. Each level in the game contains one of 10 artifacts hidden inside secret chambers, and the ending depends on whether Wario found them all and the coins he collected. Development and release. Virtual Boy Warioland was developed by a large number of Nintendo R&D1 staff involved. It was co-directed by Hiroji Koyataki and Hirofumi Matsuoka, who had previously served as director and artist on Mario Paint, and produced by Gunpei Yoko. Satoshi Matsumura acted as one of the game's co-programmers, while the music and sound effects were composed by Kazumi Tataka, which was his final project with R&D1. Tataka included a song called Tataka's Song, an Easter egg that he hides in most of the video games he composes. Like all other Virtual Boy titles, the game employs a red and black color scheme and uses parallax, an optical trick used to stimulate 3D. The game was first shown at E3 1995 under the name Wario Cruise, intended for release on September 21, 1995 in Japan and October 1995 in North America. It also made another appearance at Shoshinaka 1995 under its final title, Virtual Boy Warioland. The North American release was titled Wario's Treasure Hunt, but the name was changed shortly before launch. Nintendo first published the game in North America in November 1995, followed by Japan on December 1st, 1995. Reception. Virtual Boy Warioland received generally favorable reception from critics upon release, with most criticism directed at the Virtual Boy hardware itself. Nintendo Power felt that the game made excellent use of the Virtual Boy hardware, with some of the 3D graphics and gameplay elements. The Los Angeles Times' Aaron Curtis found the game to be enjoyable, but disliked the Virtual Boy's visual style, while Rocky Mountain News' Joel Easley said its use of 3D demonstrated the possibilities of the Virtual Boy. GamePro considered it the best Virtual Boy game, celebrating the quality of the characters and sound effects. Dave Upchurch and Simon Clays of Nintendo Magazine System, official Nintendo magazine, praised the game's crisp visuals, audio department, and gameplay, but felt that the 3D effect was merely cosmetic and criticized its short length. Next Generation remarked that while it appealed to more hardcore Mario fans, it was not very advanced compared to older Mario titles, and they felt the 3D mechanic did not add much to the game. Game Zero magazine's Brian Carter gave high remarks to the game's 3D graphics, soundscapes, controls, and longevity. N64 magazine's Jason Moore wrote that the Virtual Boy was the most ignored and slated of all Nintendo consoles, yet Warioland is a typical slice of Nintendo excellence and should have sold the machine by the millions. Retrospective coverage. Retrospective commentary for Virtual Boy Warioland has been more favorable, being celebrated as one of the best Virtual Boy games. Augustin Olvera and Stephen Smith of Combo felt that its cavernous setting helped the Virtual Boy emphasize subtle visual details, while Play's David Halverson returned to the game often and praised it for not getting tiresome to replay. All Games' Scott Allen Marriott found the game fun, highlighting Wario's controls and diverse moveset, as well as the detailed graphics and bosses, but noted its short duration. Nintendo Life's Dave Freer lauded the game's use of the 3D effect in the visual design and replayability, but lamented the lack of additional levels. Retro Gamer opinioned that the background gimmick helped enhance an otherwise traditional platformer, while the Australian video game talk show Good Game felt that more could have been done with its visuals. Writing for OneUp.com and Nintendo World Report, Neil Ronigan enjoyed the background gimmick but felt that it did not work as well as it could in exploring the concept. Games Radar called Virtual Boy Warioland a legitimately awesome platformer despite its lacking 3D gimmick, while Kotaku's Ben Bertoli felt that it was unappreciated at release due to its platform. Polygon's Kyle Hilliard stated that despite being less popular than all other Wario titles, it was the best Wario game. He discussed how, even though it was the first time playing it, he felt nostalgic due to its use of familiar elements from the first Warioland entry. He also praised the game's 3D effects, particularly the boss battles. Several outlets hope to see it re-released on other Nintendo platforms, specifically the Nintendo 3DS, including IGN, Games Radar, Destructoid, and Retronauts. Legacy. Virtual Boy Warioland served as inspiration for multiple games from several developers due to its background gimmick, including Donkey Kong Country Returns 2010 by Retro Studios, Mutant Mudge 2012 by Renegade Kid, and Shantae Advance Risky Revolution 2025 by Way Forward. In 2016, Renegade Kid co-founder Jules Watson revealed that he proposed a color remake of the game for Nintendo 3DS to Nintendo, but never received a response, reportedly due to Nintendo not wanting to revisit the Virtual Boy. All information in the podcast today was provided by Wikipedia. And that'll bring a close to episode 58 of the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast. You can check out the podcast several different ways. We have video presentations of it on YouTube where you get to watch video gameplay, or you can also listen to it on Spotify or your other favorite listening channel as well. We'll be back next week with another retro game. It's been RxDude22 from the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast signing out. Keep on gaming. See you on the next stream. be good to each other, and you'll see and hear me on the podcast next week. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.